ABC Wednesdays.
Celebrity Jeopardy is back.
Damn! Look at that!
Hosted by me, Ken Jennings.
Yeah!
A new season of powerhouse celebrities compete
Go big or go home.
to win $1 million for charity.
When celebrities take the Jeopardy stage, anything can happen.
Bat it on!
What is zombie? What is
Arctic?
What is the incorrect answer to this question?
Celebrity Jeopardy in prime time. Wednesdays on ABC and stream on Hulu.
This episode is brought to you by Pete's. Few things start your day better than a good coffee. That's why Pete's hand roasts their coffee from a specific selection of high-quality beans. And they don't just put those beans into anyone's hands. Pete's trains their roasters for 10,000 hours so they can master the roast that gives you the most. Pete's Coffee. Coffee for coffee people. Find Pete's online or at your local retailer.
Hey, what's up? This is Sully from Godsmack. Strap on those boots, baby, because you are now in the trenches of the war room with the one and only Mistress Carrie right here on the Mistress Carrie podcast.
What's up? This is Joe Rogan, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie.
Her hair so lovely, pretty eyes.
Hey, this is Brent from Shinedown, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie. Hey, Carrie, go put your bra on, girl.
Hey, this is Steven Tyler, and you be listening to the baddest bitch in Boston, Mistress Carrie.
What's up? This is Aaron from Stain, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie.
Hi, everybody. This is Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters, and you're listening to the one, the only Mistress Carrie.
Hey, this is David from the band Disturbed, and you're listening to the baddest bitch in Boston, Mistress Carrie.
Hi, Bruce Dickinson here from Iron Maiden. Yes, indeed. Miss Whiplash herself, Mistress Carrie, is here to unchain your brain.
Hi, this is Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. You're listening to Mistress Carrie.
This is Dennis Leary. You are listening to my favorite, Mistress Carrie.
Hey, this is Corey from Stone Sour, and you have the privilege of listening to Mistress Carrie. Oh, God. Oh, yeah.
Hey, it's Mistress Carrie, reporting for duty from MCHQ for episode 173 of the Mistress Carrie podcast. And before we get to this week's guest, Jessie James Dupree, I want to remind you about everything that you can find online at mistresscarrie.com. Not only can you find every episode of the Mistress Carrie podcast and every episode of my video show, Cocktails in the War Room, but you can keep track of every rock concert coming through New England and all of my personal appearances in the events calendar. You can check out my blog, get all the links to my social media pages, and you can shop in the online Mistress Carrie store. And that includes the new 3/4 sleeve retro 70s baseball jerseys that come with black or purple sleeves. Just check the links in the show notes of this episode or go straight to mistresscarrie.com. My guest this week, Jessie James Dupree, is a musician and an entrepreneur. He's the front man for the band JACKYL, the owner of the multi-faceted company Mighty Loud Enterprises. He also owns his own line of spirits and the Full Throttle Saloon in Sturgis, South Dakota, where I just was. I sat down with Jessie to talk about his love of music, his booze, and motorcycle riding, especially in South Dakota, and how recently he collaborated on new music with Brian Johnson from AC/DC. We also talked about his new music coming out on vinyl, JACKYL's performance at Woodstock 94, how he takes care of his iconic gravelly voice, his business acumen, songwriting, and so much more. Jessie is a larger-than-life personality, and I'm impressed he sat still long enough to come on the show. So, allow me to introduce you to the one and only Jessie James Dupree. Mr. Jessie James Dupree. Am I keeping you awake?
Up?
You're yawning already.
No, I'm not. You know what? I just damn got a bite of lunch, and I get the damn lunch crash. What's happening?
How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. I just shut the door so we can have some privacy in case you want to talk dirty to me.
You know me so well. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you as well. It's been a minute.
Yeah, I think the last time I saw you was up at Laconia Bike Week, actually, and that was years ago.
Yeah, we just played there in June. We gave away our 18th Harley Davidson motorcycle. I've been doing these Rolling USA campaigns with the Harley Davidson Motor Company, and we do these 6-week campaigns leading up to these big events like Daytona and Sturgis and Laconia. And then right in the middle of the JACKYL show, I'll roll a Harley Davidson out onto the stage, have 10 qualifiers that come up on stage, and they each get to pick a key out of a bucket. And whichever one of them's key unlocks the forks and cranks, it wins it.
Nice.
It's pretty good. I get to be Santa Claus.
And this was Laconia's 100th anniversary, which was pretty big.
Yeah, we were there, and it rained like it rains in Laconia. It rained, but we had a great time, great show.
Speaking of the rain, I got to finally check Sturgis off my bucket list, and I sought solace at Full Throttle in the middle of a downpour. I went looking for you, but I couldn't find you.
You got my cell phone. You could call me. We were 3.5 days of rain. Like unprecedented for Sturgis. Had just unbelievable rain, and everybody came in with the best attitudes. Had a great rally, and got a lot of hugs and everything. Our team just did amazing on how they handled everybody, and it ended up being challenging but rewarding at the same time. And another rally behind us. So we look forward to the 2024 rally and the 84th Sturgis Motorcycle Rally. We call it the Pappy Hoyle Sturgis Motorcycle Rally because Pappy started the thing 84 years ago coming up.
So crazy. And you and I have talked a lot about Full Throttle, and you had always said, you got to experience Sturgis. And this year I finally got to do it. And when I walked into Full Throttle, I was like, oh, this is what Jessie's been talking about, because I never got to get out there before. It's unbelievable.
I tell people your jaw's going to be on the floor when you walk into that place. I mean, it's no joke.
I saw a drowning pool there, too. Like, that stage is huge. You can have great shows there.
Oh, yeah. We have national acts. Everything from Tesla to Travis Tritt to of course, JACKYL plays there every year. We had a phenomenal show this year. We paid tribute and honored the United States Border Patrol, and we didn't get political with it. We just those men and women in uniform down on the border getting their ass handed to them, and we just had to stop and pay tribute to them.
Speaking of Tesla, I talked to Jeff Keith recently about the live album that he recorded there.
Oh yeah, they did. They had a great show, and you can listen to their album and tell it was a great show, great crowd, and they sounded phenomenal.
I do want to talk to you, though, because I left Full Throttle with an addiction. So we roll in there in the pouring rain, and this nice girl in a bikini and chaps started pouring espresso moonshine down my throat. And I brought some home with me, and it was not enough. That stuff is freaking delicious.
Oh, it really is good. Thank you for saying that. We're proud of all of the products, everything from the Saloon Shine to the Full Throttle Espresso to the Jessie James Bourbon is doing incredible. We've been celebrating. I think we're going on our 10th year of the Jessie James Bourbon now. It's doing really great. So yeah, it's there's plenty of it in Sturgis when you get there for sure.
You have a whole store. I walked in, I was like, how am I going to get all of this back home?
It's amazing. In the Black Hills of South Dakota, you can make whiskey and sell it right out the front door. It's pretty amazing. It's still the Wild West out there.
I couldn't believe, now you talk about Laconia and kind of riding in New England and you always get wet. I couldn't believe how gorgeous the riding was in Sturgis. I knew it was going to be amazing. And I had this whole list of everything from the Badlands to Devil's Tower, just all of these places that I wanted to see. Deadwood, obviously. But making those rides, wow. There's no better place to be on two wheels.
Well, it literally takes you a few years. And I'm not saying this exaggerated. It takes you, you have to go to Sturgis for several years for you to actually experience everything. And it is hands down, with all due respect to all the other legendary motorcycle rallies like Laconia and Daytona and Milwaukee and Mike's Blues and that kind of thing. Sturgis is beyond a shadow of a doubt. It is the best riding ever because you got Mount Rushmore, Crazy Horse, Deadwood, Devil's Tower, Needles Highway, Spearfish Canyon, the Badlands, I mean, it's just it goes on and on and on, and they're just you have to go down Needles Highway 10 times, over the course of a couple of years just to see everything that you just went. You can't take it all in. It's the most amazing postcard of a ride you will ever make. Even if you're in a car, I'd suggest anybody that wants to go and see a big slice of America, the Black Hills of South Dakota, will give it to you.
I never had to stop in traffic, being a Bostonian. I never had to stop for a herd of buffalo before in traffic. And I had that experience in South Dakota, and I was like, I don't know if Boston traffic at rush hour or this is more dangerous.
Well, you don't want to play with a mama buffalo if she's got her calves around, because they will maul you to death. You have to be very respectful and keep them moving. But yeah, they are amazing creatures, and whether you're out at Bear Butte, which is right there beside our property, or whether you're out on the prairie like what you're talking about, you got to just know that you're going to be out there in the middle of wildlife. I mean, there's buffalo, there's some incredible, beautiful elk that are out there. It's all kind of cool stuff. It's beautiful.
We left there, and one of the guys that we were with came home with a new nickname because he had an encounter with some of the wildlife. He encountered a cow that ran out and literally clipped his bike, hit his front tire, knocked him on his ass in the mud. Cow survived. Buddy survived. The bike got a little dinged up, but it's fine. But we now call him Jimmy Veal. The nickname's going to stick forever.
That's great. Jimmy Veal. Jimmy Veal. That's a damn movie star name right there. Ladies and gentlemen, Jimmy Veal.
Exactly. So I'm bummed I didn't get to see you, but it's not going to be my last time out at Sturgis. So the next time, I promise I'm going to hit you up because we got to hang out.
I'd love to, man. You got to come. I'll be offended if you do it twice in a row. If you can't come out there again and not find me and hang out. So I got a 1962 Willis Jeep. We'll have to go for a ride in that. It's a lot of fun to go tour the property in the Jeep.
Hell yeah. Well, you're just a busy guy, which is part of the reason why I didn't call you, because I figured being at Sturgis, your phone's just ringing off the hook. And somehow with all the motorcycle rallies, all the work you're doing with Harley, the moonshine, the bourbon, all of that stuff, you still are finding time to not only play live, but make new music.
Oh, we did not plan on making this newest album that just got made. It's kind of happened. And it's an album that I made with my son on drums, Nigel T. Dupree, and Roman Glick on the bass. It just happened organically. I was thinking to myself that I had not listened to a full album from front to back. And I felt guilty about that because I used to love listening to full albums. And I went back and listened to AC/DC's High Voltage. And I actually listened to it twice. And then that led me to listen to Highway to Hell. And then I listened to Back in Black. And I wasn't planning on doing that. It just kind of happened. And the next day I woke up and I had a song in my head, but I couldn't find which album it was on. And then I realized, well, I must have just been influenced. So I was sitting on the couch with a little Marshall mini stack hidden at the end of the couch, and I'm recording these ideas that I was having come out of me I was influenced, and I was just recording them on my cell phone on video mode. And my son walks in the door from Nashville, and I said, "What are you doing home?" And he said, "I came here to get a free meal," because I live in Atlanta. So he came in, and I said, "Go lace up the drums." And I called Roman, and I said, "Get over here." And the next thing I know, we were recording, and we had a whole mess of songs over the course of a couple of days. And I'll step back and listen. I thought, man, some of these things are so much like AC/DC. I don't know if I could ever do anything with it or not. And then coincidentally, I had not spoken to Brian Johnson from AC/DC. It'd probably been 6 months. And he had called me. He was out on his book tour, and he called and wanted to know if I wanted to go to dinner with him while he was in Atlanta. And I was out of town, so I was bummed I missed it. But I hadn't called him because I just didn't want to be that guy, knowing that he was busy with his book tour and stuff.
See, you just gave me crap for not calling you because I didn't want to be that guy. You didn't want to do it for Brian Johnson.
Well, he he's just a great guy. And so coincidentally, the Saturday after we'd recorded these songs, my phone rang. After not talking to him for 6+ months, the phone rings. Hey, Jessie, how you doing, me son? And I'm like, what the hell? I couldn't believe, that he just happened to call right when I had been thinking about him. And which is the way it tends to be, right? And he goes, I'm drinking some of your whiskey. And so we talked about whiskey, and he had a buddy over for dinner, and his buddy was talking about his favorite whiskeys and that kind of thing. And then I said, well, I didn't call you. You called me. So I'm going to go ahead and ask you to help me write these songs. And the next thing, he gets excited. He's like a teenager. He loves to write. And nobody in AC/DC works outside of their band anymore, They never really have. And so it doesn't go past me that I'm very fortunate that Brian's comfortable for us to work together and write songs, and just a great guy. And so we ended up with some songs on the record, one of which is this song here called Never Gets Old. And it's a celebration of the fundamentals of rock and roll. It's a tribute to everybody that used to camp out 2 nights to get front row tickets to a concert. And I could not be more proud of it, not just because of Brian Johnson, but because of my son, Nigel, and Roman on bass. And the response so far has been really great. In the fact that people still want to find new music and want to celebrate those fundamentals of rock and roll. It's a big deal. And I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to put new music out. So we're just spreading the word. I appreciate you, getting your hands on it. It's the lyric video. Have you seen the lyric video yet?
Yeah.
You have?
Yeah.
Were you able to name all 35 bands that we pay tribute to?
No. I think I came close, but I know I missed 1 or 2 for sure.
Yeah, we got 35 bands that are represented in the logos, the fonts that we use, should I say, not the logos, but the fonts. And if you can name all 35 bands, first of all, you get a QR code that's on the top of the video. If you hit the QR code, you can automatically be registered to win a trip to Florida in March. And then if you've named all 35 bands correctly and I pick you as a winner, then you get a bonus check of $1,000.
Nice.
So go to YouTube under Jesse James Dupree and watch the video and enter for the contest, and then see if you can name those 35 bands. We've been having a lot of fun with that, and I can't wait for the whole record. The record drops November the 10th, and we've actually pressed up vinyl. Do you still have a turntable?
Hell yeah, I do. Please tell me you're going to make it on purple vinyl.
I haven't picked. I didn't do purple vinyl, but we do have vinyl coming out, and I'm excited because I had a turntable. I can't find it, and if I had to bet, I would say that Nigel, my son, has probably got it up in Nashville at his place. And so I'm going to go get me another one. And they haven't delivered the vinyls here yet, but it gets released on November the 10th. And you can order it at the website, jessejamesdupree.com. And you can order the limited vinyl on it with a bundle, CD or T-shirts and stuff like that. So, there's a lot of people been grabbing hold of those. There's such a big resurgence of vinyl. That's something I'm happy about, too.
I'm not surprised vinyl came back. I am shocked to hell that bands are making cassettes again, because I really didn't think that was ever coming back.
That it is amazing, because I've been seeing that too. I'm not making plans to do a cassette, but I am doing vinyl. But I used to like the cassettes. The sound of the cassettes, being off that analog tape is pretty. They sound great.
They just don't last. And obviously, you need. Oh wait, I have one right here. I had to make these. Actually, somebody made them for me.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
Because if you're going to listen to music on cassette, at one point or another, you're going to need a pencil to fix the problem.
Yeah, and have it roll it back up. Yeah, I've done that many a times.
That's why I was a little bit surprised that it came back. It is awesome, and we're all so fortunate that you were able to get on the phone with Brian Johnson, because there was a time where we were all afraid we weren't going to see him on stage anymore because he wasn't going to be able to hear anymore. Like, it's unbelievable that this new technology is allowing him to not only be able to just call you, but to be able to perform and write music again.
Yeah, well, I was with him on the last show that they played, before all that went down. And I was aware that, that he was dealing with that. I don't comment on anything past it because it's not my place. But he, I'm, it was, I completely stayed away from commenting on any of the stuff that went down with him not being there, just out of respect for him. It's not my place to talk about it, but I'll just tell you this. He's the lead singer of AC/DC. He's where he should be. And I'm ready to check them out when they hopefully get back out on tour again.
Well, I hope, according to the governor of Nevada, he says he wants AC/DC at the Super Bowl halftime show in Vegas. I've been pushing for this for years. The fact that AC/DC has never gotten the nod from the NFL is crazy, considering you can't go to a sporting event and not hear AC/DC. It's impossible.
It'll be the biggest Super Bowl ever just from them playing it. It'll be huge.
Yeah, and every artist, whether it be country, hip hop, pop, rock, whoever, are going to be like, wait, I want to go up on that stage with AC/DC. Can I please be part of that?
It'll be interesting to see if they have any guests, because there's not a lot of room for a guest whenever they come down on Back in Black or Shook Me or something, Highway to Hell or something. You just stay out of the way.
I do want to talk to you about an anniversary that's coming up, because whenever I get asked about the best concert I've ever seen, everybody always has those, is it the first concert you ever saw? What was the best show you ever saw? To me, top to bottom, the best concert experience I ever had, lineup included, was Woodstock 94. And I remember being out in the crowd and watching you, and the 30th anniversary is coming up next year. It's crazy.
I wonder if they're going to do anything for that, because that it was a big deal, Woodstock, but they seem to have went. It seems like they've always kind of acknowledged the one that happened after that.
99. I was at that one too.
Yeah, but they've never. It seems like they've always kind of brushed over the 94, which was an incredible lineup, because it was Metallica and Aerosmith and Joe Cocker and
Nine Inch Nails, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Green Day.
Yeah, and we had a great slot. We were Friday evening right at dusk. We just had a perfect set, and I think we went on right after Blues Traveler. I think they played, and then we played, and just what an incredible opportunity and experience for us. It was a magic time for us, because it was right at the peak of the JACKYL record taking off like it did. We were on the second album, I think, at that point, and we were out on tour with Aerosmith. So it was. That was a magic show, and we were all over. We ended up being all over. David Letterman and the News, and it was a funny little story that Gibson Guitars had a booth out back, and I went by the Gibson booth and I said, "Hey, let me take this SG to the stage and play it during our show." And so the guy was reluctant, but he allowed me to take the guitar. And when we got up on stage, we got into the show, and I took the guitar and I smashed it into pieces and threw it into the crowd. And he comes running up to me and says, "Hey, where's that guitar?" And I said, "I smashed it up and I threw it into the audience." And he laughed and he walked away. He came back a little bit later and he says, "Hey, you smashed that guitar up and threw it into the crowd." I said, "I told you I did." He goes, "I didn't think you really did it." He goes, "They're not going to like that in Nashville." And I said, "Well, send me an invoice. I'll pay for it, And because their home office is in Nashville, I said, "I'll pay for it." And then a little bit later, he comes running back saying, "They love it. They love it." And I said, "What?" And he goes, "It's all over CNN News, and every 30 minutes they were showing me busting up that Gibson guitar and throwing it in." And I actually, coincidentally, just totally by coincidence, I actually walked into a Ruth's Chris Steakhouse in Nashville sometime thereafter. And I walked in and Gibson was having an executive dinner. And I walked in and they gave me a standing ovation for, because it was all over the news that I busted a brand new Gibson SG. They liked having their name all of that press. But yeah, and David Letterman made a big deal about it and stuff. So yeah, that was a hell of an experience for us too.
Green Day is getting ready to release a Dookie box set at the end of the month, and they're releasing their entire Woodstock performance that they've never released before. Do you guys have a recording of your entire performance from Woodstock?
Well, they must be tied in with that. I mean, because Polygram, I think it's Polygram has the rights to all of that content. So I can't just put it out.
Oh, I see.
So they, I mean, you could probably, I'm sure you could license it or something, because that they must have done something like, I mean, I can check into it and see, but yeah, there's obviously some way that they made that, because none of us own those masters. Those are owned by Polygram.
Well, you were part of the best show I've ever seen, finishing up with Peter Gabriel on Sunday night. I've never been muddier and wetter except Sturgis this year. And I made that joke a lot when I was at Full Throttle. I was like, I haven't been this wet since I saw Jessie, James, and JACKYL at Woodstock, because we were soaked.
When that stage turned around and we had 500,000 people out there in front of us, and I was wearing a full mirror jacket. It was like a big mirror ball. And those were actual 1-inch square mirrors that had been cut and pasted, glued or however they adhesed to that. Somebody made that jacket. It weighed about 50 pounds. And I had that jacket on, and my Uncle Sam had those things are sitting in they're in a Hard Rock cafe somewhere. That hat and jacket is in a white. I got a white pair of boots, the jacket and the hat that I wore at Woodstock, and there's one of the Hard Rock cafes somewhere. But yeah, that was a hell of a day.
Every time I have somebody on the show, we always talk about the upbringing and musical lineage. And you've already talked about how your son Nigel plays drums with you. So obviously the musical genes are continuing in the family. Did you inherit musical ability from your family, or are you the first musician that you know about?
Well, my uncle played guitar somewhat, played that guitar, and my uncle wrote some parts of some songs that were just great little parts, but he never had a sense of structure. Looking back, I didn't know then that he didn't. We just thought it was cool that he could play some chords and sing some great parts of, like the song Secret of the Bottle, which is a big JACKYL live show song. I mean, everybody always sings that song when we play it live. They know the words. And that song, that chorus of that song was I grew up hearing my uncle sing that chorus. I just finished it out, put a structure to it. But yeah, growing up, the only real, other than my uncle periodically blowing into my life, my uncle was not a constant in my life. He was there when I was very young, and then he was off on the Marine Corps. Then he came back from the Marine Corps, and he was wide open for a while. Then he went to prison. He was part of the Dixie Mafia, and they busted a bunch of guys in the Dixie Mafia for a bunch of activities that they had going on. He went to prison for a while, and then he came back out again. So he was just in and out of my life, just crazy and wide open. And I loved him. He was a big influence, but he was a country legend, if you want to know the truth, the way he lived his life. But and he taught me a lot of the things of what not to do. But he, other than that, it was mainly my mom and my dad. They would wake me up late at night. I'd still be wearing the pajamas with the feet in the bottom of them, and they would stand me in front of the television set to watch Little Richard on Johnny Carson, or to see Burt Reynolds and Dom DeLuise doing an interview, or even back Frank Sinatra and Don Rickles. If they were doing something on TV, they would stand me in front of the TV, and I just try to keep my eyes open and watch it. And I remember when I was probably 11 or 12, my dad came home one night and made me get up. He woke me up, made me get dressed, and he carried me down to a place called Frank's Lounge. And I got up and sat in and sang an Elvis song with a band called Luke Curl in the Southern Light. And I sang the song, and everybody went crazy. And then my dad took me back home, and I went to bed and went to school the next morning. So I don't know. I mean, none of it was because I ever said I wanted to do it. It's just, they just kind of is weird, but that's the kind of upbringing I had.
I believe that you have two eras in music in your life. There's the soundtrack to your childhood that you get exposed to unwillingly by your parents and your cool uncle and your older brothers. And then there's something that you hear normally around age 11, 12, 13 years old, and you go, oh, hold on, I like that. So Little Richard and all of that stuff being the soundtrack to your childhood, what was that artist, album, song that you said, okay, hold on a second, I like that? Was it a rock band?
Actually, it was in the same, it was like, I was still right around that age, but not like 12, 13 years old. And my parents had I tell the story all the time. My dad lost his job at Lockheed Aircraft, and he sold everything we had, including my bicycle. And we moved to Gadsden, Alabama. We were living in a mobile home trailer in the back of an asphalt parking lot. And all my friends were back in Georgia, and there was a jukebox in that cafe, and the guy would give me the 45s off the jukebox, and there was all the Deep Purples and the Rolling Stones and the Grand Funk Railroads and the James Brown and Joe Tex. And Joe Tex was my favorite. And he had a song called I Gotcha. And that was I didn't know it then, but it's what taught me how to sing the way that I sing. Because he has the best power up voice ever. I mean, like ever. And like just amazing. And he was, well, I got you. Thought you got away now, did you? Just he had that down, just that raspy and the best scream. Wow, promise me the day that you quit your boyfriend, I'd be the next one to ease on in. But so that was my first true love as far as music, and somebody that I just thought, my God, that's the most powerful thing I've ever heard in my life. And I didn't know it, but I was learning how to sing like that. And it paid off years later because I can power up and just keep on going. I mean, I just, I don't warm up. I don't do warm ups, and I don't look at a gift horse in the mouth. The intro tape rolls and I give it everything I got.
I was going to ask you that because now that I'm doing so many different radio shows and the podcast, my voice is taking a beating more so than it ever has before. And I struggle sometimes to keep it the way that it needs to be, as raspy as it is. Not a singer's voice problem, but being that my voice is my job the way that it is for you. How do you sing that way every day and not lose it? I just don't understand.
I don't know. I did there's the singer for Stained.
Aaron Lewis.
No, I'm sorry. Disturbed.
David Draymond.
Yeah. We played a festival together, and he stood side stage probably a couple of months ago. And he watched the show from the side of the stage. And when we got through, he came back and he said, how do you, hold on, my battery's getting low, so I just had to turn it back on. So he said, how do you do that? And I said, I don't know. It just happens. But Jeff Worley, the guitar player, said Taco Bell. And he said Taco Bell. And the singer, David, said, he goes, what? And then I went, well, yeah, that's true. If I feel like I'm a little tattered, I'll generally go to Taco Bell. And the grease coats my throat, and the hot sauce opens up my sinuses. And I guess that is my secret weapon, is Taco Bell.
Maybe we need to get Steven Tyler there. He's on vocal rest right now from hurting his vocal cords. Maybe that's what he needs. It's just some tacos.
I don't know. I've often watched singers, far better vocalists than myself. Obviously, they're out there. But I've watched these vocalists struggle with their vocal cords. And just as an observation, there's so many, and I'm not talking about Tyler because I don't know what he's, I wasn't there. I don't know what he's dealing with, but as far as just in general, I see singers struggle and I can't help but think it's because they coddle themselves. They're constantly saying, I got to save my voice. I got to rest my voice. And I'm like, why? And I'll tell you, this is what I think. If you get up and you go running right now and you're not used to running, if you go run 3 miles and then you sit down, what are your muscles going to do? They're going to spasm up. Your legs are going to cramp and you're going to be going, oh, I got, because you're not stretched out. If you run every day, you're going to be stretched out. And the more you run, the more stretched out you are, and the more stretched out you are, the more you can run. Your voice is the same damn thing. If you keep it running, it's going to be there for you. And now, that's not to say you don't get tattered. Like you said, there's common sense things to do, like water. And then there's other things you can stay away from, like coffee. Coffee can dehydrate your voice. And you've probably got a big cup right there. Yeah. So coffee is something that you can absolutely, if you cut coffee out for a couple of days, you can absolutely tell a difference in your voice being hydrated. And
there would be a trail of bodies behind me too, Jesse, if I quit coffee for a couple days.
Then the way to circumvent that is Taco Bell. We're back to the beginning. So Taco Bell with hot sauce. That's all I can tell you.
You have always been somebody that from a very early stage in your career seemed to navigate the business side of music really well. And, the streets are paved with musicians that made bad deals with managers and accountants and broken deals with record companies. And you seem to be somebody that always kind of had that business acumen to be able to help steer your career too. Where did that come from? Just your upbringing and learning to be street smart with money, or where did all of that come from?
Well, thank you for saying that. I mean, I've been very blessed to have great people in my life, that John Kolodner at Geffen Records and all the people at Geffen Records, because that was as powerful of a label as that was a very, you couldn't get any more of a major label than Geffen Records. You had Atlantic Records, Elektra, Sony, whatever, and Geffen. I mean, Geffen was a mega major label, but yet it was actually a very boutique label and very personable. And the way David Geffen had that company structured was genius and brilliant. They didn't have product managers. If you signed a band, you carried them soup to nuts. And so John Kolodner was the one that said, you're going to be self-managed. And I don't know why he did that, because it was against his norm as well, because he was always wanting a rock star to be a rock star and have a manager and have a business manager and have a lawyer and all this stuff. But for some reason, he said, you're going to do it yourself. And I was surprised as anybody, right? And but the company wrapped up around me. At first, they didn't want to, but they did. And I was able to develop relationships that it taught me the value of relationships. And that's probably the one, I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but I'll outwork anybody. And I keep good people around me, and I've made great friends throughout the years that have, just such as yourself, there's the relationships have sustained, some that I've known really well and some that just on a professional level, like you and I, we grew up together in the business, so it's, those are things that I think the smart people, if you will, identify with each other. And that's what sustains us all, yourself included.
Well, the business is definitely not going to pave a straight line for you. I learned that when AAF got sold, that it was all about being able to bob and weave around the industry and to plow a new road when, you get a roadblock in front of you. And you've been really able to diversify not only your career, but to help a lot of other artists too, because I talk to so many bands that are like, oh, if I could go back and not sign that contract or not hire that manager, like it would have totally changed the course of my career.
Well, we've, knock on wood, we have very few regrets, I think. But we made a cognizant decision in the beginning, especially when we realized that, because we came out in the middle of the alternative craze and the grunge thing, and everybody was done with the 80s thing, and we didn't really fit in either one of those. We weren't an 80s thing, and we weren't because we were more throwback to the 70s. We were kind of an AC/DC from the South, if you will, just a blue-collar rock band. And I think Tesla's kind of like that, too. I don't think Tesla fit into the 80s thing.
Yeah, and the Black Crowes kind of came through that thing, too. Yeah, like there was a whole group of bands like that.
Yeah, but I think that we kind of skated past that. But it was coming out in the middle of the alternative and grunge. We had to make a decision that we were not going to chase those things, and we were just going to be who we were. And, we never really, we never were the critics' flavor of the day. But by God, while the critics' choices were playing 150 seat room, we would be playing a 5,000 seat room. So, again, no regrets here. The critics can have their darlings, and I'll hang with all the people that want to support and celebrate the fundamentals of rock and roll, which is what we do.
I do a lot of interviews with artists, and it comes up more and more all the time. And you brought it up because it's where Nigel lives, that the rock artists over, say, the last 10 years have really kind of taken over Nashville. That for people like me, just always thought everybody in Nashville had a horse and a belt buckle and a hat. And then I finally, a couple years ago, got to go, and I was like, oh, wait, this is just a music town. And there's so much rock music getting made there now. It's unbelievable.
Well, when you say the term starving musician, there's a level of starving. If you want to really starve, go try to live in Los Angeles, because everything is through the roof and taxed twice as much. And it's the most beautiful state. And some of the most incredible people that I've got that are friends, but God help them, that damn state is in need of an enema as far as who's running it. I mean, it's such a shame. But Nashville offered a more welcoming environment. It's a lot of what LA used to be. You got Broadway and all the clubs down through there, and you've got just such a vibrant love of music and music scene. And it's not just country music. There's just so much there in Nashville, and it's actually getting too crowded for that, for what the infrastructure can hold now. But it did blow for the last, 15 years or so. It's really, really everybody's migrated from New York and LA to living in Nashville. And I was just on the phone with Bob from Concrete Marketing, who I've known, forever. And, first thing he says, I'm living in Nashville now. It's like, it's everybody's there. But I'm close enough. We're 3 hours from Nashville from my house, so I don't have to move.
And you can make sure you keep the son close, pop in on him when you need to.
Yeah, trust me, we got a refrigerator that keeps him coming back.
Well, I know I got to let you go in a few minutes, so I got to ask you the standard questions that have birthed themselves in the show now. We were talking about songwriting and your process of just kind of sitting down and documenting all of this stuff. As a craft, songwriting fascinates me because I can't do it. I've tried. I just failed miserably. Is there a song that you look at as being the perfect example of brilliant songwriting that you covet and go, oh, I wish I wrote that song? But then I want you to break it down from a songwriter's perspective about why you think it's so brilliant.
The first song that comes to mind is the Rain Song by Led Zeppelin. And I guess it's my go-to song if I'm speaking with young vocalists that are trying to figure out what they're capable of. And I always suggest that they go and learn the Rain Song, because the song is a perfect example of the different parts of your voice that you use. It is the springtime of my loving, and you got that, hot isn't hot. Robert Plant goes into that head voice. And then at the end of the song, I felt the coldness of my winter. So he powers up. And so there's 3 parts of your voice that you use in that song will teach you those things. And then as a song, it's a beautiful song. But at the same time, it's a powerful metal song, not metal, but rock song. And just so powerful, emotional. And it takes you on a journey for the different peaks and valleys that it has. But and the live version of the Song Remains the Same is probably my favorite version, but the album version is good too. But the live version is where you really feel the spirit of that song. And Robert Plant really exemplifies the epitome of a rock and roll singer. And so I hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
Now, is it my favorite song of all time? I'd have, my favorite album of all time is The Who's Quadrophenia. It's absolutely the most brilliant. It can't really be compared to other works of music. It needs to be compared to stuff like the Grand Canyon, or it's that level of incredible, and so deep in the story that it tells and the different dimensions of the character they talk about. So that's great. And then you get into, the vocalist, I go back to Joe Tex, so there's that's great. But the Rain song would probably be the one I'd just go to.
And then I got to ask you the geezer question. That's what we call it. I interviewed Geezer Butler from Black Sabbath. He dropped it on me that he's got 13 cats and 5 dogs, and he names them all after gangster rappers, and I nearly fell out of my chair. So I always ask artists now about their pets, and where you got the names for them, blame Geezer. So tell me about the pets.
I don't personally have any. I'm not a cat person.
I pictured you having a hound.
No, I had a Rottweiler, and his name was Colonel Tom, which was named after Elvis Presley's manager,
Colonel Tom Parker. Yep.
And I named him Colonel Tom, and we called him Colonel. And he was a big, beautiful Rottweiler, and I had him for many years. And he would sit on the front porch of the house, and he would, somebody would come up the driveway, he'd go, roof, and it would vibrate the whole house. And I miss him. And when I lost him, it was like, I hate having to go through losing. Now, my wife, I have to be careful because she has Yorkies. And
you have pets. If your wife has a Yorkie, that's your Yorkie too, Jessie.
Well, I was going to tell you. So here's the deal. I come home from the road, and I'd been on the road for a couple of weeks or so, and I came in and I was burnt and tired. And my wife says, "Hey," she's taking my daughter and my niece and nephew to walk up Kennesaw Mountain, which is just right down the road from my house. They were going to hike up the mountain. She goes, "Do you want to go?" And I didn't want to go, but I said, "Sure." So because I'd been gone. So I get my tennis shoes on and we go hiking up the mountain. We get halfway up the mountain. My little niece says she's got to go to the bathroom, but we couldn't get her to go behind a tree. She had to go to the bathroom. So we get to the top of the mountain, and my wife says, "Hey, we've got to take the bus down so she can use the bathroom." And I was all about that because that saved me from having to hike back down the mountain. So the bus comes up, and the wife and the kids all get on the bus, and she turns around and hands me her 2 Yorkies. And I said, "What are you doing?" She goes, "Well, they don't allow dogs on the bus." So she takes the kids and goes down the mountain, and I'm stuck on the top of the mountain with 2 goddamn Yorkies. And so here I am going down the mountain with my 2 Yorkies, and people are, that was at the height of the TV, the full throttle TV show. And I got people going, "Hey, Jess," hey. And I'm thinking, I look like, I don't know what, carrying 2 little Yorkies down the damn mountain by myself. But anyway, but yeah, so you're right. When my wife has dogs, but I'm, trust me, their dogs are they're like kids that never grow up. They dictate everything, right? So, but yeah, I miss Colonel. Colonel was my dog, and he was a beautiful Yorkie, and I mean a beautiful Rottweiler, and I do have to tolerate the Yorkies.
Well, the new album, Breathing Fire, is out on November 10th. I looked. There's no tour dates in New England yet. Can we expect announcements about you guys getting back on the road up here?
Well, I hate to miss you in Laconia because we had a great show, and it was a lot of fun, and we gave away that rolling Laconia Harley-Davidson motorcycle. I don't know when we'll be back, maybe right after the first of the year. But we are heading to Arkansas this week. Then we're in Minnesota after that. We're heading down to Florida, Columbus, Georgia. And then we're heading all the way up. We're doing a whole run in November all the way up through the Midwest, finishing up in Green Bay, Wisconsin right after Thanksgiving. And check out JACKYL.com. I'm going to get out and do some dates with the solo band with Roman and Nigel. I say solo band, but God Almighty, the album is all Nigel and Roman. They just kill on the album. And going to be out doing some dates with that as well. So I'm going to stay busy like always.
Well, I hope to see you at Sturgis next year because one trip was not enough for me. So I'm definitely going to hit you up for some of that espresso moonshine next time for sure.
Where did you stay?
We stayed at a friend. So my husband is a Marine. We were talking about the Marine Corps earlier.
Super fine.
And he's got a Marine Corps buddy that lives about 20 minutes outside of Sturgis. So we stayed with him. Okay.
Well, you know what? I look forward to seeing you guys next year and hugging your neck and hugging his neck. I appreciate him being a Marine. And my uncle was a Marine, like I said, before he went to prison. But anyway, look, I thank you. I love you. Thanks so much for the time. And let's stay in touch more often. Crank up that new single, Never Gets Old. Check out the video. Get you some limited vinyl at JesseJamesDupree.com. Drink you some Jesse James bourbon. And always celebrate the fundamentals of rock and roll. Mistress Carrie got you going on. Pow!
See, I told you I was impressed. He sat still long enough to be on the show. There he is, the one and only Jesse James Dupree. Now, there's a lot of links that you can find in the show notes of this episode, including the lyric video and the contest that he was talking about for the new song that he wrote with Brian Johnson from AC/DC, Never Gets Old. You'll find all of Jesse's links and all of my links as well, and the link to this episode's corresponding playlist. I make a playlist for every episode of the Mistress Carrie podcast that features my guest music and all the artists and songs that we referenced in the interview. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to the Mistress Carrie podcast. New full-length episodes come out every Wednesday, plus every weekday you get the sit rep. The Situation Report boils down all of the rock and music headlines and entertainment updates, all to about 5 minutes. And you never know when we're going to release a bonus episode. You can join me live every Tuesday night at 8:30 Eastern on my official Facebook page for my video show, Cocktails in the War Room. And you can always find me on the radio. Get the details on all that and more at MistressCarrie.com. The Mistress Carrie Podcast, a proud member of the Pantheon Podcast Network.
Hi, I'm Michael Osborne.
And I'm Amit Kapoor. Together we host Famous and Gravy, life lessons from dead celebrities.
On each episode of our show, we choose a famous person who died in the last 10 years, and we go through a curated series of categories to look at their life story in search of insights and hidden wisdom.
Category 2, 5 things I love about you.
John Prine.
I'm going with the obvious, the mailman. That he was a mailman as he started his career. It speaks to a specific kind of artistry, which is what I love.
Yeah.
Like everybody is an artist, and anybody can be an artist.
Alan Rickman, net worth. I saw 16 million.
That's right.
That seemed a little low.
Really?
Harry Potter. That franchise is insane. Category 9, Man in the Mirror.
Hot take time. Luke Perry said, "Who wants a career knowing you got somewhere just because you look like somebody?"
Category 7, Over Under. Maya Angelou.
You know, one of the last interviews she was giving to Oprah, like, what's it like to be in your 80s? And she's like, it's awesome. Famous and Gravy, life lessons from dead celebrities.
Famous and Gravy is a proud member of Pantheon Podcasts.